Aloha and welcome to DLNR Revealed. In this series, we hope to share information about the Department of Land and Natural Resources and our partners about the work that we do to protect your Aina and our natural and cultural resources here in Hawaii. We have entered Hawaii's dry season. Throughout today's session, we'll share some footage with you about wildfire and tips that you can use to help us malama Hawaii and malama our Aina. We have with us today wildland firefighters from the Division of Forestry and Wildlife, Honolulu Fire Department, and the Federal Fire Department. They partner to protect our natural resources and Hawaii's people from wildfire. I'm Michelle Jones, Information and Education Coordinator with the Department of Land and Natural Resources, Division of Forestry and Wildlife. And this is also known as DOFA. DOFA is one of 12 divisions underneath the Department of Land and Natural Resources. And here today I have with me Fire Management Officer Wayne Chang, and also our friend and Oahu Fire and Forestry Program Manager, Ryan Peralta. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm hoping we can get started with a little introduction, a little background on who you guys are and how you got to be in the positions that you're in today. So Ryan, tell me a little bit about yourself and where you went to school and just how you got into this job.
Well, I was born in Hilo. I grew up in Mililani. In high school, my mom saw that I wasn't doing a whole lot in terms of job-wise. So she volunteered me for the Division of Forestry and Wildlife, and I spent 2 summers clearing trails. I was a free volunteer weed whacker kind of guy, and we just went out in the mountains and we weed whacked for every day the whole summer. Learned how to run a weed whacker, chainsaw, forward drive. We did a lot of outdoor mountain kind stuff. We did camping, and from that point on I was hooked and became kind of something that I kind of wanted to see myself doing for the rest of my life. I didn't want to be behind a desk. When it came to like college time, you know, I heard forestry is a good degree to get into if you want to get into this kind of field. So after that, after high school, went to college, got a degree in this field, came back. They didn't have any jobs for me, so I bussed tables for a while and surfed every day, got that out of my system.
Nice, nice.
And then job opportunity opened up, and I've been here ever since.
Excellent. Well, we're glad to have you with us, and thanks for doing all the work that you do. So when you got into forestry, did you know that you'd be fighting wildfire? Was that your initial intention, or is that something that came later?
Yeah, I think I kind of knew that there was that element, you know, you see, like, you know that it happens, and I knew that there was that element, but it wasn't really the reason why I got into the field. It was really my love for the outdoors and the whole mountain, rain, mud, mosquito thing that kind of turned me on to that stuff.
Yeah, same here, same for me. So Wayne, I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about yourself as well, and maybe how your career progressed into being the fire management officer for DOFA.
Well, kind of like, Ryan, I grew up on Maui, East Maui, in a little village called Keanai. And when I was in the 5th grade, a forest ranger came to our school and did a visit, talked about forestry. And I never thought much about it after that in high school, until I went to Oregon State, where I had to make a decision, well, did I want to be a wildlife biologist or a forester? And I said forestry was it. And so I graduated from Oregon State University in the School of Forestry.
And you've really been instrumental in growing the fire program under the Division of Forestry and Wildlife. At least that's my perspective, because you've been with DOFA for how long now?
Since 1979, so 32 years.
32 years.
And when I first started, I was a survey forester, so basically being outdoors, measuring some of our forest plantations. And then if you fast forward to 1994, my predecessor, Patrick Costales, was the fire management officer there at that time, and he got promoted. And so I just pretty much stepped into his shoes and carried the program from then on.
Excellent. Well, you had a great leader then.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Yeah. So I was hoping you could share with me and our audience a little bit more about how the Division of Forestry and Wildlife's fire program works. I know there's 3 parts, and could you share those and maybe a little information about the 3 parts?
Well, like the fire triangle, we actually have 3 points. The first one is prevention program, and the prevention is pretty much going out to schools, to communities, talk about fire prevention. And so a lot of it is outreach. The other one is what we call pre-suppression, and basically what it is our training program, our readiness program. So we not only train our personnel in firefighting and do a refresher training every year, but we also ready our equipment, fire vehicles, equipment, so on and so forth. And then the third point is suppression. So they're actually getting on the ground, breathing fire, eating smoke, that type of thing. So prevention, the outreach, pre-suppression, the training, and the readiness, and then the prevention is actually putting the fire out.
And that's what we always hope not to do.
Yeah, yes.
So anyway, in Hawaii, we're intimately connected with our ahupua'a, our watersheds, and fires obviously have drastic impacts on the watersheds and on Hawaii. So Ryan, could you tell us a little bit about how fires impact our ahupua'a and what we can do to help prevent that?
Well, in Hawaii we have the native forests and whatnot, and fire is not really a part of the natural processes in Hawaii.
Right.
Like mainland, there are some ecosystems there that actually depended on fire for regeneration and whatnot, but in Hawaii it's actually quite the opposite. So you have a native ecosystem that is not adapted or used to this element. Fire is a natural element, and when you have a fire in the native ecosystem, it'll come through, it'll kill the native plants, it'll wipe out entire areas, it'll make it bare and barren. Mm-hmm. And what will happen is you have all these weeds coming in, and the weeds are a little bit more aggressive, they're more prolific in a reproduction standpoint, and the natives cannot compete. So we've had fires in really pristine native forests, and where there's maybe 99% native, and it would just run everything barren. And then what comes back, what actually rejuvenates, is like 80% weeds. And it starts that way, and the natives just can't keep up, and you start this like little kipuka of weeds, and from there it kind of expands outwards. So fire is devastating to the native ecosystem. From the watershed standpoint, I mean the vegetation, it acts as a sponge, when it rains, and then it captures the water, it prevents the runoff, the mud and whatnot from going into your rivers and your streams. It helps to absorb that water, transfer it down into the aquifers, which we use for drinking water and whatnot. So from a watershed perspective, the fires remove that sponge, that capturing layer, and it allows this devastation allows the mudding of the rivers and the streams and erosion and taking away our topsoil, and in some cases you take away the topsoil and then nothing will grow on top of that. And if you look at some of our you drive around, like say the H3 for example, and you see these big dirt scars and nothing is growing there, and you take away that topsoil and it's hard for vegetation to come back, or if something does come back, it's weeds again, yeah. So it's bad for the watershed, and from the rare plants, perspective, native plants that we have in Hawaii that we don't have anywhere else in the world. You have these fires come through, and it just basically wipes out the last remaining plants that we have. For example, the Nanu, the Gardenia brighamii, there's only one plant, one single individual, wild individual left on the island, and this plant, there's less than 50 left in the known universe, right? And there's only one left on Oahu, and the reason why the other ones were taken is most likely, fire and weeds and stuff like that. So fire definitely has a negative impact to our rare plants, and just not good for nativeness of the natural environment.
And also, I mean, being a surfer, I would think it would impact the health of our oceans from the sedimentation on reefs and whatnot. Is that true?
Yeah, they also I mean I'm not a marine biologist or stuff, but I watch Discovery Channel, and in the sedimentation, from the runoff and the erosion, it covers the coral reefs. And
sure doesn't have a positive impact. Anyhow.
It's not so good for it. Yeah, there's actually problems with that. But.
Yeah. Well, I heard from Wayne and Ryan just a little bit earlier, last week actually, about the Honolulu Fire Department and the great partnership that we have with them. And today we have another guest with us. We have guest Captain Terry Seelig with the Honolulu Fire Department, and I'd like to introduce him today.
Hi,
and
Michelle.
I'm hoping that you can share a little information with us about your partnership and how you work to help protect against wildland wildland fires, pardon me, as well.
Okay, well, first I want to thank you folks for inviting us, and we have a really deep and profound respect for the work DLNR does in protecting the forests. Most of the time our response is not to the higher elevations that DOFA will go to. We are a large municipal fire department, but we cover the whole island. There are agreements with the parts of the island that are protected by state, the airports, or federal, the federal fire department. And wildfires can happen anywhere. There's land that's shared throughout the island where emergency response plans are in place, and we respond to pretty much most of the fires on the island, either first in or called in, depending on where it is. And wildfires, they're seasonal in the sense that they get greater when it's hotter, but they're not seasonal in the sense that we have them year-round. And we'll manage them along with all the other emergencies that you see us at and that happen. This is a big island. It's a big city. We have over 1 million people here, and we have all the problems of having 1 million people with other types of emergencies, other types of fires, medical emergencies, hazardous materials, search and rescues in the ocean and mountain. So we do all that, and we really owe a debt of gratitude to the DOFA and their expertise in wildfire management.
Well, we recognize that you guys are first responders for most of the fires on Oahu, so we really appreciate your support as well. How many wildfires were there on Oahu, for instance, last year?
Last year we counted about 550, a little over. And it fluctuates from year to year. It has a lot to do with the weather and the fuel load. So we've had some years where we've had close to 1,000 in a year. And these range from very, very small events, such as just a patch of grass. We still categorize that in the same category of fire, to several hundred acres of fire.
So I know you have stats from January through May. And could you tell us a little bit about those and then what June is looking like so far?
Yeah, well, from this year, January until May, we had about 77 wildfire calls. So far in June, and we're up to about the 22nd is when I stopped the count, we've had, I believe it's 60. Yes, I believe it's 60. I don't have my note in front of me, but it's a big increase, and the reason is that the weather's changing. It's getting a little drier now.
Right.
Even though it rained today, we're still seeing less rain, and the fuel is starting to dry out. The grasses and brushes that are commonly the areas that burn. And also winds are changing a little bit, where we haven't yet had a wildfire that's spread rapidly, but that's traditionally what will happen during the summer. Is it will be drier, it will have a lower moisture content in the fuel, and the winds will push the fire faster, and then we'll start to get, unfortunately, some big fire spreads.
Well, one big fire spread that we want to share with our audience today, and thanks for joining us for DLNR Revealed, is a video of a fire whirl that captured the nation's attention and beyond. So we're going to thank Ryan for joining us and share a little information about this fire whirl via video, and then when we get back we're going to have another guest for you. So enjoy the video.
They're called fire tornadoes, or fire whirls, or fire devils. They're a rarely seen phenomenon that can be catastrophic. This fire tornado was recorded in late August by a firefighter with the Hawaii Department of Land and Natural Resources. Fire tornadoes occur when intense heat causes air to rise and combine with whirling eddies of air. It consists of a core and an invisible pocket of rotating air. Because of the intense heat, the rotating air, mixed with gases from burning vegetation, can increase dramatically in intensity. lifting smoke, debris, and embers high into the air. Fire tornadoes can spew embers thousands of feet in the air, allowing wildfires to spread quickly. The Hawaii firefighters were battling a 1,400-acre blaze on the southern slope of Mauna Kea volcano. This whirl is too dangerous to try and fight. In the video, this fire whirl started with a narrow column of fire in the center of a small dust tornado. Then the tornado gets bigger, and the fire grows. In the end of the video, the fire sort of explodes to be much larger and more dangerous. As the fire truck drives away, you can see the enormity of the fire.
Well, now we have with us Battalion Chief Victor Flint from the Federal Fire Department. Thanks for joining us today.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for all of your work and your partnership, too, with the
Thanks.
Division of Forestry and Wildlife and DLNR in our work to prevent wildfires for the people of Oahu.
Thank you.
And statewide, right?
Predominantly the island of Oahu.
Okay, well, I was hoping that you could share a little information about the role of Fed Fire and fire prevention.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, the Federal Fire Department in Hawaii is the largest federal fire department in the world. We have over 300 men and women, 15 stations, and a headquartered unit here on this island. And we respond to every type of emergency, structure fires, car accidents. And we also respond to fires aboard ships and subs, and we deal with the full gamut to include medical emergencies. But wildfires is the issue, and yes, we do respond to a number of those.
Mm-hmm. And of course, we want to strive to prevent as many wildfires as possible.
Oh, yes.
And that's one of those 3 points in the fire triangle. And maybe you could share a little bit about the fire prevention programs that we have here and that we all work on together as partners against wildfire.
Sure. Well, thank you. Yes, we do partner with State Forestry and the Honolulu Fire Department and other emergency responding agencies to set up an aggressive and progressive wildfire prevention program. Our chief says all the time, the best way to fight a fire is to prevent the fire. And that's why we have the campaign going out, and we try to focus on the children.
Excellent. And I know Wayne says the very same thing to us at our office. The best way to fight a fire is to prevent it from happening in the first place.
Definitely. You know, the prevention program,
Yeah.
you know, is focused on not only children but adults as well. So it's important that we get that message across.
And how do you do that?
Well, you know, we go out at community meetings. We've gone to schools and done some exhibits, and of course, for forestry, it's been, you know, Smokey Bear has been our icon, and we're trying to push that program, and it's very successful too.
It is. I think on Oahu last year alone with Ryan, we reached almost 5,000 school students, and we went
Fantastic.
to Makakilo Elementary School with all of you guys. You were all there.
Fantastic.
It was, yeah, that was a really wonderful experience, and I think it really touched the heart of some of the students and some of the adults too.
Touched our heart.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad that we could all join. So now we're going to show a little clip about a wildfire that happened here on Oahu just a couple years ago. And unfortunately, a number of the fires that are set, they're actually set intentionally. And I'm hoping that you guys can share a little information about how, so we'll start with you, Victor, how those intentional wildfires impact your units and your ability to respond to other emergencies.
Well, thank you, Michelle. Yes, when these fires are set, it takes valuable resources away from emergencies such as structure fires,
Right.
car accidents, medical emergencies, things like that, to fight a fire that was that didn't need to happen in the first place. And the destruction, like what Ryan and Wayne was talking about earlier, it's horrible. It burns our vegetation and it kills endangered species, and the silt runoff runs into our stream, which ultimately runs into our ocean, and it's a horrible scar. The other thing is we're using tens of thousands of gallons of water to fight this unnecessary fire. And water that we can't afford to lose, especially during our summer months or our dry periods. So preventing the fires are the ultimate goal, and with a strong public awareness and prevention program like what we're doing now, we feel is the key.
Well, thank you. Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much. And I was hoping maybe, Terry, you could share a little bit about that too, about how it impacts our resources, and also financially. I mean, we got to get down to that bottom dollar. So how do fires impact the public in terms of financial resources as well as the impact it has on your staff?
Yeah, a response to wildfires, as Chief Vic was saying, is a big use of resources. The resources are pretty much already paid for in the Honolulu Fire Department in the terms of salary and equipment. However, the more you use the equipment, the more it wears out. So we will have a greater rate of wear and tear. But the most significant impact is that the resources are committed, then other resources on the island are going to be shifted around in our department so that we can cover the areas that we protect, which is the whole island. So eventually, if that continues to cascade, we'll not be able to get to an emergency as quick as we want to and as we could have if the resources were in their vicinity. So that's the most significant impact, is the risk that it presents to the rest of the citizens. You might think that, oh, you have a wildfire out on the west side, it's no impact except out on the west side. Well, that's really not true, because we'll pull companies in from the windward side, from the east side, from the central side, and we'll readjust our coverage, and that will be less units available if there's another big event, such as a structure fire or something personally significant like your friend or family having a medical emergency. It can make a difference.
Right.
Well, maybe you and Wayne both can share a little bit about how wildland fires or wildfires impact structures too, because we're an island. It's a very small community, and we have a lot of land. In fact, about a quarter of the land is managed by the Department of Land and Natural Resources, just over 1 million acres. But that 1 million acres statewide, we have a lot of houses interspersed. So how do wildfires impact structures, and how can people help to protect their homes against wildfire?
Yeah, especially homes in the rural areas, there's an area we call Wildland Urban Interface, where the wildland interacts or interfaces with a home. And those communities or those homes, homeowners need to be aware that they need to keep the areas around their houses free from tall grasses, or clear out some of their gutters from any leaves, and really try to protect the home as best as possible. So that if the fire does come through, there's enough room so that the Honolulu Fire Department can come in there and do their job, and without also not injuring anybody, or which is really important, firefighter safety. But to protect homes is a really important thing. So people can look at what we have called a National Firewise program, and people can get on that website, and there's lots of tips about taking care of their homes.
And we have Firewise representatives here in the islands as well, right?
That's correct.
And it's important for you all to know that you want to make sure that you do not have debris 30 feet from your house, right, Wayne?
That's correct.
Okay,
yes.
so you want to have a nice clear area, and then you want to make sure those gutters are clear. And also, one common saying, I'm going to get this wrong, I know I am, about 911. What do you say? There's a
Don't
common...
stall,
Don't
call.
stall,
Don't
call.
stall, call. Don't stall, call 911 if you ever have any problems with, or if you see a wildfire, because you may be the very first person to actually
That's
see
right.
that wildfire.
That's
So,
right.
and oftentimes people think, oh, somebody else got that, but fires
Yep.
are quick, they spread fast. We want to make sure that people are vigilant, not just our firefighters, we've got to support them. So we want to make sure that everyone is vigilant and we all work to protect against wildland firefighters. Do you guys have any last tips that you want to share with our audience?
Again, just being fire-wise and fire-safe.
Firewise and fire safe?
Yeah, be careful with your use of fire, whether it's recreational or if you're working, a torch or a tool. All those can accidentally start fires. But also, please help the community in getting information to law enforcement if you know of anybody setting fires intentionally. That's the only way that we're going to make a difference in that problem, is have people share information with the police officers.
Well, thanks again for joining us on DLNR Revealed, and we're going to share some PSAs with you now that were developed by Sea Rider Productions. Aloha, and until next time.
Each year, dozens of wildfires are started purposely in Hawaii. It destroys homes, family lives, and causes health problems. Wildfires threatens wildlife, including native Hawaiian plants and animals. With the strike of a match, wildfires hurt everyone. Remember, malama the land, malama each other, and don't start wildfires. Each year, dozens of wildfires are started purposely in Hawaii. It destroys homes, family lives, and causes health problems. Wildfires threatens wildlife, including native Hawaiian plants and animals. Remember, malama the land, malama each other, and don't start wildfires.
Hey Mom and Dad, remember when you told me not to play with fire? Well, I guess I didn't get that message, because my friend and I here are playing with matches. In the next 30 seconds or so, one thing will lead to another, and this whole place will burn down. But don't worry about Josh and I, because we'll be long gone before anybody comes. Thanks for the heads up, though. See you at home.